I wonder if this resonates with anybody. Do you ever have problems asking for what you want? Making a simple request, maybe you're at work or you're in a relationship and you struggle with asking for what you need. I just want to say, excuse me if my eyes are going from side to side. We're live on Facebook as well, which is why my eyes are slightly going side to side rather than focused on just Instagram. So many people do have a problem requesting what they want. I don't know if that resonates with you, Lise, where you feel a bit either some people might feel a bit shy or unworthy of asking what they need, you know?
Absolutely. I think, can you tell us the reasons why people find it hard, first of all? Because there's several reasons, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it can come from a sense of low self-esteem. And as we've spoken about in another live, this is when you have a general sense of not valuing yourself. So it's a low sense of value and worthiness, you know, and you tend to build up other people's capabilities in your mind. So it's a really sort of distorted and unfair view of yourself. And if you have maybe grown up in that environment where you haven't felt seen and heard, or haven't been also taught how to ask for what you need in a way that is going to perhaps get you what you need. So it's not in a passive aggressive way or a very domineering way, which is a very direct way without putting too much of a story around it as well, then maybe you just haven't learned that. And it's certainly something I can relate to, because I used to really struggle with it and go into a whole story around why I was asking for the thing I was asking for.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If that resonates to anybody, if it does, let me know. And so that's really why. And what, of course, can also happen is you can spend a lot of time blaming other people. If only they hadn't asked you to do something, or you find you can't say no to a request. And a lot of energy goes into hoping other people with change rather than asking for what we really need. And this can also tie in a little bit, at least, with boundaries that we've spoken about.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a bit of boundaries. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. So asking for what you want can be very important in all sorts of areas: community, family life, relationships, work, and so forth.
Yeah.
And so, like everything that we talk about on here, it's helpful to have a plan if it's a problem, because then if we can work towards the plan, then it helps us sort of break the problem down into small, bite-sized pieces that you can start to work towards and expand your window of tolerance in an area that perhaps you find quite uncomfortable, if that makes sense. I asked them to backtrack and apologise for asking. I know, Emma.
I know.
We've all done it. We've all done it. And so what can be helpful, firstly? Were you going to say something, Lee? Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so why are people scared of asking? Why can't people ask? Because they're worried about a reaction, or they're worried about getting a no as an answer.
Exactly. Just worried about getting a no. Maybe they won't get the answer they want. Maybe they'll be, if they're at work, they'll be knocked back, or maybe they're working with someone that is slightly domineering or maybe a bit aggressive, and they don't want the feedback. We all love to hear yes, but it can actually be quite good if we can hear no for a period of time, because it kind of inoculates you against it, because it's just a no. It's the meaning we attach to things, right? We'll give it this, will be part of how we perceive it and then process it. So it's important for that. But thank you for all the hearts. I find no very crushing. I know. Well, we can all relate to it, right? I find that so exposing. Yeah, you can feel vulnerable when you ask for something and someone turns around and says,
"Yeah, exactly.
No," or "Why are you asking me that?" or anything like that. And it's like,
yeah.
However, this is where the grounding techniques we've spoken about can come in handy.
Absolutely.
But supposing you broke it down into a few ways you could ask. So identify the problem. You can write this down on a piece of paper, literally. Number one, state your problem, right? So maybe it's something like, my neighbours are playing music late at night and I can't sleep, right?
Yeah, which I'm sure will be happening at the moment. It'd be driving me absolutely mad.
Yeah, or maybe you're living with a lot of people and they're working late into the night or anything like that. So you can either use a kind statement or a grateful statement. And this helps it break down to ways that you can pose your question, your request, that makes it easier to sort of put across. So you could say something like, if it was a kind statement, would you mind lowering the volume after 11 p.m, please? I would appreciate it if you would lower the volume after 11 p.m, please. Or I was wondering if you would lower the volume after 11 p.m. So these are kind of sort of wrapped in a in an air of kindness, if you like. Now,
could you say, sorry, can you just say as well, I understand that you might be having a great time partying, and then explain about why it's not so great for you.
You could do. Sometimes when you put the but in, people will sometimes
right,
pause.
okay.
Here comes the request. You could say something like, "I know it sounds like you're having a fantastic time, and I was wondering if you could possibly turn the music down, please." So they're not sort of preparing for the but. Oh, here we go.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The other thing is a grateful statement, right? Mm-hmm. So a grateful statement might be something like, "I would be grateful. I'd be so grateful if you could turn the music down, please." Something like, "It would really mean a lot to me if you could turn the music down. So it sounds like you're having such a fantastic time. Really sounds amazing. And I'll be so grateful if you could turn the music down, please."
Right, and then, so grateful. That's a good one. Yeah.
And then stop, rather than going into the whole thing of, because I've got this really early job in the morning, and or my child can't sleep, because that's when we get into the story of it, right? So sometimes you can just make the statement and leave it and sit with the silence of waiting to see what they say, right? Because there's no need to fill in anymore necessarily, right? "I would really appreciate your help in turning the music down."
Why wouldn't you give the story though, Lee?
Because sometimes I think when we get wrapped up in the story, sometimes we start justifying ourselves. If you're telling a bit of context, that's fine, but it's the justification sometimes that people can get caught up in that then ends up there, as Emma was just saying on here, you kind of end up getting caught up in a story and sort of then apologising for making the request. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so what can be helpful is you put your problem statement down, then a kind statement you can make, and a grateful statement you could make. And that gives you a bit of preparation, and then you go and you take the action, right? And it just gives you then a plan to work towards, and learning to tolerate that silence that may come rather than sort of apologising, I think is important, and expands our window of tolerance, really. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah. And then would you sort of step back and then give it some time to see whether that actually works, or would you sort of stay on it? Would you give people like, a little bit of time?
Yeah, I think give them some time to sort of let it sink in and see what happens. And then again, you have to sort of see how it unfolds. But I think it's being consistent if it carries on, to have another conversation. Sitting with the silence is such a struggle for me. I always say too much. I know, Emma.
I do too.
It's a really common thing, and I can so relate to it. Can you, Lise? It's like,
yeah, I mean, the silence is really good because it gives the other person time to think, hopefully, what they're doing, and would they understand that we're getting upset about it, and hopefully they're thinking about the other person.
Well, I think the other thing, it depends a lot on the person we're dealing with and how accountable they might be. If they have no idea their behavior is problematic for you, then that's one thing. But if they're not as accountable for their behavior, or aware of their behavior, the impact it has on other people, then that can be more problematic. So it's really a case of stating what you need, sitting with the silence, expanding your own window of tolerance in the meantime of what that silence feels like, and not having to justify. And seeing how it unfolds, and the way and the tone and the eye contact we can make with someone, and the way we use our body can be very helpful. If you're sitting there saying, "I'm wondering if you could possibly, the loud music's very loud," and your body language isn't particularly.
But it's quite scary though as well. I mean, it's quite scary. So somebody, might be they're not very assertive in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that's where the grounding techniques we've spoken about.
Exactly.
Where you can use your body, because remember, when you use your body, you get feedback, right? So you're using your body to feel something different. So grounding yourself, standing straight, standing tall, shoulders up, making eye contact in a gentle way, not in an aggressive way. Smile. Smile at them. "Hi, it sounds like you're having a really good time, and I was wondering if you could do me a favor, really help me out here, and turn the music down by 11 p.m.
I guess it's about being warm, isn't it? Because I've tried the smiling and the friendliness before, and it just looks like I'm being patronizing or condescending. So I guess it's just more about being warm to the other person.
Warm to the other person, very confident and decisive. And someone was just saying here, silence is space for both, which is so true. It just gives a moment for everyone to sort of allow to absorb what's just happened, So I think, it's just a few tips. I hope some of you have found that helpful.
Earlier, what if they just literally just say no?
Well, I think then you can go back in and you can review it and sort of say, can you explain, can you help me understand why you're giving me this answer? And is there something, what would you be willing to do to help accommodate my request?
Yeah.
So put it back to them, rather than just running, sort of recalling away and saying no. What would you be willing to do to help with this situation? And try and reach some sort of middle ground. And sometimes we will hear no. And sometimes it can be difficult. And I think the other thing with all these tips we're giving is life's messy sometimes. It's not, we can all sort of think it's all going to be wonderful and we're always going to get the outcome we want, but it's not necessarily. And it can be messy and it can be difficult, but there can be growth in the process, so helpful, brilliant, especially for Monday as a new month starters. To go on. Yes, Emma.
Absolutely. And I was just looking through like what we were talking about boundaries, and that's super helpful here, I think, and the grounding techniques. So we've got all of these on our series on IGTV on our Instagram. So
yes. And as someone rightly said here, not everyone is ready, and walking away isn't failing. Exactly. This is the whole point of this, is bite-sized chunks. You expand your window of tolerance a little bit and then go back in. This is not about making huge jumps that are so uncomfortable and you recall thinking, I'm never going back there again. It's about being gentle with ourselves. And as we said in lots of our series, thank you from the heart, it's very lovely, is you break it down. You just make little bite-sized moves, actions that expand your window of tolerance. You tolerate the uncertainty of the new behaviour. And then grow.
That was so brilliant. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for your time and attention today. I really appreciate you showing up. Alrighty, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.